Ellie Honig, the senior legal analyst for CNN, writes, "This case was an ill-conceived, unjustified mess. The charges against Trump are obscure and nearly entirely unprecedented. In fact, no state prosecutor in New York or Wyoming or anywhere has ever charged federal election laws as a direct or predicate state crime against anyone for anything. None. Ever."
Donald Trump, the twice impeached former president and current Republican nominee, is now running as a convicted felon.
2 words: convicted felon.
Convicted felon. He is a convicted felon.
Donald Trump guilty as a felon.
Convicted felon.
The 45th president of the United States is now basically convicted felon.
Donald Trump, twice impeached, convicted felon.
Technically, he is a convicted felon. Legally speaking, a convicted felon.
Donald Trump will now campaign for president in this country as a convicted felon. Convicted felon, former president of the United States, like any other convicted felon. A convicted felon, convicted felon.
The former leader of the free world, Donald Trump, now a convicted felon.
The former president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, a convicted felon.
He is now tonight a convicted felon.
And he's a felon now.
Donald Trump is a convicted criminal.
He is a convicted felon.
Convicted felon.
He's a convicted felon.
Donald Trump is a convicted felon. And now a convicted felon. Donald Trump is now a convicted felon.
Do we want to be represented, to be led for the first time in history by a convicted felon?
A former president of the United States, now a convicted felon.
And he became a convicted criminal.
You don't want a convicted felon in the Oval Office. You don't want a convicted felon in the Oval Office. You don't want a convicted felon to turn the Oval Office and the federal government into some kind of a racketeering operation.
We do know that a convicted felon can become president of the United States.
And he's now been convicted. He's a convicted felon.
A convicted felon.
Look, the fact is that being a felon is not good.
A president or an ex-president become a convicted felon. That's nothing for anybody to have a lot of joy about.
Donald Trump has been found guilty. What does this moment mean?
Could you say it again slower for me, please? It would be lovely.
Guilty.
Yeah.
All 34.
Could you say it again slower for me, please?
Donald John Trump.
Don't choke.
Is a convicted felon.
He may go to jail. I think there's a serious prospect that he's going to get a jail sentence, and if he's not reelected, that he serves that jail sentence.
What makes you think that jail is really on the table here?
The reason I think that a jail sentence is on the table is that I looked at 10,000 of these FBR, falsifying business records cases in New York since 2015. In the most serious cases, and this is the most serious FBR case in the history of the state of New York, in the most serious cases, defendants do get jail.
That's how the American system of justice works. And it's reckless, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible for anyone to say this was rigged just because they don't like the verdict. The Supreme Court of the United States blocked me, but they didn't stop me.
Does it not offend you that the President of the United States is usurping your authority?
I would argue that the offense here probably is Donald Trump. The fact that
Think of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
For God's sake, talk about things getting worse.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if we put any more Republicans on the Supreme Court? No.
We're
We will lose all of our rights. So we're talking about women's rights, gay rights. I mean, we will lose our rights and freedom. Voting rights. Yes,
All of
voting
this
rights.
is up at stake.
Major turn on Ukraine, a major reversal from the White House tonight. The Biden administration giving Ukraine permission now to strike inside parts of Russia with American-made weapons for the first time.